So the never-ending game key card saga continues with an announcement that was made yesterday that has lots of anti-game key card individuals very hopeful for the potential future of third-party companies when it comes to the use of game key cards. Of course, game key cards are essentially a digital download that contains a bit of a physical aspect to it. You put the cartridge into your Nintendo Switch 2 system, it then activates a server in which you will download the game, and in order to use that game on your Nintendo Switch 2 system, you have to have that game key card inserted into it because it acts as essentially a license to have access to that game. Now, many people are like, well, what's the point? How is this any better than digital if I could just buy a game digitally and not have to deal with the cartridge aspect? Of course, the benefit of a game key card is the fact that you don't have to be locked to just one system with it. If you decide to give your cartridge to someone or you want to sell it to someone else, you now can sell essentially what is a digital copy and just not have access to it anymore on your system, but somebody else can enjoy it, thus giving a monetary value on the secondary market. So I'm not as against game key cards as many people are, but of course there is a strong physical component when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2 games and of course Nintendo games in general. People have nostalgia for purchasing the game on a disc or a cartridge and not needing to do this, that, and the other. Even though, I mean, you were pretty much introduced to it with the Nintendo Switch 1, and of course, codes and boxes, game key cards where you'd still have to download 90% of the game. It was essentially the same thing. It just seems to be a lot more prevalent on the Nintendo Switch 2 because of the fact that there are no multiple cartridge sizes. There's only a 64 gigabyte cartridge. But like I said, an announcement that was made yesterday has people hopeful that maybe the era of the game key card is coming to a close already. Third-party companies are starting to abandon it, and I don't necessarily see it that way. The game in question, the announcement in question, involves Sonic Crossworlds, which of course is a new kart racer featuring Sonic and some various Sega franchises that are also sprinkled in there. You know, I hope we get a little bit of Shenmue love in the roster like we've seen. I believe it was in Sega All-Stars Racing. There was there was some Shenmue love in there. I would like to see that in this game, but I'm sure it's not going to happen. But Sonic Crossworlds looks really cool. And I keep wanting to say Sonic Crossroads because of the fact that, remember there was that rumor that the new Mario Kart game was going to be called Mario Kart Crossroads, and I was like, I think Bone Thugs is gonna, like, you know, strike Nintendo or something. See you at the crossroads so you won't be lonely. See you at the crossroads so you won't be lonely. And I'm gonna miss everybody. 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 Okay, let me stop. But Sonic Crossworlds looks really cool. It looks like a traditional kart racer game, pretty graphics, and of course the game is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, this is a Sega game, and if you know anything about Sega thus far on the Nintendo Switch 2, it's all been game key cards. They released a couple different games on the system. You had games like the Yakuza 0 version, Director's Cut on the Nintendo Switch 2. You had Sonic X Shadow Generations on the Nintendo Switch 2, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, and Raidou, or whatever the hell you called it, which was actually an Atlas game, but of course, Sega owns Atlas. So 4 games, 4 game key cards, and many people thought that that was just going to be the standard going forward. But it's been discovered that Sonic Crossworlds on the Nintendo Switch 2, when it comes out, will actually have a full physical release with the game completely on a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Now, some people are thinking, oh, well, now companies don't like game key cards, and they see that maybe games aren't selling with game key cards, so there's a massive shift happening, and I'm kind of like, slow your horses down, pal. Like, let's not put the cart before the horse with this. I don't even know why I just made 2 horse references in a row, because I hate horses. I think they are weird, and I do not like them. But there's a lot more than meets the eye with this situation than I think people are actually realizing when it comes to Sonic Crossworlds. Now, first and foremost, it's not all sunshine and farts with this game. The game for the Nintendo Switch 2 will be coming out at a later date than the Switch 1 and all the other versions of the game. The digital edition of Sonic Crossworlds will be available during the holiday winter season, and the physical edition will be available early in 2026. So a bit of a staggered release here. I guess Crossworlds needed more love and attention for the Switch 2 version of the game, which is honestly kind of disappointing. That was something I planned on picking up day one on the Switch 2. Like, I don't want the Switch 1 version of the game. That's probably going to be 30 frames per second, and I don't think that's going to be as enjoyable an experience that the game would be on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, when you look at Sonic Crossworlds, the file size information that we have for the game thus far appears to be 7.9 gigabytes, and that is on the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. Now, I do anticipate the Switch 2 version of the game probably getting an update in that regard to kind of beef up the file size, but even if it's twice the file size, you're looking at essentially a 16 gigabyte release on a 64 gigabyte cartridge, which of course is one of the main problems why we are seeing game key cards. Companies are not willing to purchase a $17 game key card or game cartridge from Nintendo that's only 64 gigs because Nintendo is not offering various sizes when it comes to the Switch 2 cartridges. So it's either that or a game key card or a code in the box if you want a physical presence at a retailer. So Sega taking a game that, I mean, realistically, at max is going to be 16 gigabytes, and putting it onto a 64 gigabyte cartridge, that should be like a big win, right? That means that third-party companies are giving up on game key cards, and I'm like, you're forgetting something very important. You're forgetting something very important because people are quick to point out, well, all of Sega's stuff has been game key cards, and this is the first game that has not been a game key card. So this is a turning over of the leaf for them, and I'm like, what's the price? You see, that's something that everyone is forgetting with this. Yakuza 0, $50. Sonic X Shadow Generations, $50. Ride Out, $50. I think Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S was $40, but let's just say for the sake of argument, it was $50. These are $50 game key cards. Sonic Crossworlds is a full-on $70 release. So, when you're a larger company and you're making a bigger game that can be put onto a game cartridge or a game key card or a cartridge, but you're looking at it and you're like, well, I don't know if I want to, do a $70 game key cartridge for a game that we can actually put on a cartridge that's probably going to sell well on a Nintendo platform, because Sonic racing titles and Sonic games in general tend to sell well on Nintendo platforms. Let's just bite the bullet on this. Let's go ahead and do a physical release for this game. We'll spend the $17 because at least this is a full $70 game. So I don't think this is solving any sort of problems. I think it's just going to be on a case-by-case basis with newer games that come out that are coming out alongside of other versions, or at least within the same time frame of them, that are new titles that, they haven't been out on other platforms for a year or two or more, and they're not smaller sort of budget games in mind, they are full retail releases, then yeah, I think some third-party companies, no matter what their file size are going to put their games on the Switch 2 with a standard physical cartridge because of the fact that, they're charging you $70. What the hell is wrong with my voice? They're charging you $70 for the game. If it's a budget game, we still have the problem. If it's a classic retro compilation, we still have the problem. If it's a remaster that's only releasing for $50, we still have the problem of game key cards. This is just, there's more proof that game key cards are going to stick around. There's more proof that game key cards are here to stay than there is proof that companies are wanting to go the physical route and make fans happy and stuff like that. This is the anomaly. This is the outlier, because Tony Hawk was a budget game that didn't get a physical release. Madden is a full retail release. That's not getting a traditional physical version, and that's coming out right alongside the other versions. NBA 2K is going to be a game key card. Like, this is the anomaly. To be celebrating and dancing in the streets in a homoerotic way like Mick Jagger and David Bowie is a very short-sighted thing to be doing right now. You don't need to be doing that. You need to appreciate this game. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I almost feel like this puts Sonic Crossworlds kind of behind an 8-ball, because the Switch 2 version is not going to come out day and date. I think if the Switch 2 version came out day and date with the other versions, like, it would sell pretty damn well. But the fact that that version has been delayed, all that's going to do is potentially make sales of that game less. So because of that, Sega's then going to look at that data and be like, oh, well, maybe people don't really care about physical game cartridges like they like to posture online that they do, because now they have an excuse. Now they have an out. I'm not celebrating this in any way, shape, or form. Is it cool? Sure. Like, will I buy it on the Switch 2? Of course. But I don't think this is a sign of things to come. I don't think this means that, you know, mentalities and priorities are shifting or anything like that. If anything, this is the anomaly. This is the outsider. This is a Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 situation. So don't get your hopes up, because I think that will be very foolish. You can't spell right without RGT, folks. I need to do something with that. If I was right all the time, I would do that, but I'm not right all the time. I could be completely wrong about this. Maybe Sonic Crossworlds outsells Mario Kart World. I mean, crazier things can happen with all this outrage online about Mario Kart World. Evidently, nobody's playing it anymore. Nobody likes the game anymore because it doesn't have the traditional races. So here you go. Put your money where your mouth is, Internet. Put your money where your mouth is. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or do you see it like me and this is the anomaly, the outsider, the oddity of the Nintendo Switch 2 physical quote-unquote games that we are seeing? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.